My husband pulled a live goldfish from our tank during poker night to show his friends how I am in bed, flopping it around while saying mouth open, eyes glazed, zero response. When I confronted him about it, he smirked and said, "At least dead fish don't expect conversation after." I didn't say a word. That was 10 days ago. Today, he's living in his office because he can't stand the smell in his car. My husband Marcus loved three things: his BMW M5 competition, telling people about his BMW M5 competition, and comparing women to his BMW M5 competition. Once I ate a granola bar in the passenger seat and he didn't speak to me for 2 days, but it wasn't always this way. At first, he was charming and attentive, actually maintaining eye contact instead of constantly looking around for someone more interesting to talk to. And I was 28, tired of dating apps, and he seemed like the adult choice. But his love ended as soon as we stepped off the honeymoon yacht. It crept up like a compliment wrapped in broken glass. "Babe, you'd look amazing if you toned up a little." Then comparisons. My ex did this thing with her hips. By year 2, I couldn't do anything right. Even SX became another performance metric he tracked. He'd rate me afterwards as if our relationship was an Uber ride. Performance metric he tracked. He'd rate me afterwards as if our relationship was an Uber ride. That was maybe a 6. Try being more enthusiastic. Things only got worse after the miscarriage. As I lay there crying in our baby's crib, he stood over me and said, "Cheer up. It was probably just your body knowing it wasn't ready. You should quit your job. Focus on being healthier." And I don't know why I stayed. Maybe because leaving felt like admitting failure. Maybe because he'd convinced me no one else would want damaged goods. But a month later, I finally snapped. It was a Thursday night, which meant poker night in our living room. I was in the kitchen making his pre-approved snacks when his brother asked when he was having kids. "We're working on it," Marcus said. "Still, man, maybe see a doctor?" "Already did. It's her. I can barely get her to participate." "Is it really that bad?" The room was silent for a while and I peered over and saw Marcus reaching his hand into our home fish tank. He pulled out a goldfish and laughed as it flopped around in his fingers. "SX with her is just like this. Mouth open, eyes glazed, zero response." He threw the fish back into the tank and continued. "My ex was a corn star compared to the corpse I married." They all laughed. Someone suggested trading me in. "I have a conference in Miami next week. I'll be testing some newer models, if you know what I mean." The men laughed. Ice clinked. I didn't sleep that night. His words kept swimming through my head, each repetition more suffocating than the last. When I finally fell asleep at around 7:30 a.m., I woke up 10 minutes later to the sound of Marcus waxing his BMW. I took the chance to ask what he thought of our marriage. "You know what your problem is? You can't compete." He ran his hand along the car's curves. "This baby purrs when I touch her. She responds to every command. You? Well, you just lie there like roadkill." I swear I thought he was pranking me, but then he kept going. "I'm done pretending you're anything more than a warm hole that can't even rev my engine. At least dead fish don't expect conversation after." That's when I finally realized Marcus wasn't some misunderstood gentleman. He was a self-absorbed, entitled emotional abuser. 3 years of taking his bait. Time to set the hook. The next morning, while he was out buying a new Gucci belt, he left his car at home. "Don't want any itchy fingers touching my baby," he said. San Pedro Fish Market opened at dawn. I loaded my cart with 10 pounds of the cheapest, oiliest fish they had: mackerel, anchovies, anything about to turn. You see, Marcus had taught me everything about that damned car: how the cabin air system worked, how the ventilation channels ran under every surface, how once something got into the foam underneath, you'd have to replace everything. And Miami in July, that's 140-degree heat minimum. Even just one sardine would be enough to stink up the car for weeks, so 10 pounds meant Marcus was about to get the dead fish experience he always wanted. I worked methodically, wearing gloves and a mask. First, I popped the hood and located the cabin air intake. The fish went in piece by piece, pushed deep into the ventilation system where they'd cook slowly in the Florida heat. Some went behind the dashboard through the air vents. Others got stuffed into the door panels through the speaker grills. The biggest ones I saved for the engine bay, wedging them into spaces where the heat would really get them going. 20 minutes later, I stood back and admired my work. No visible evidence. Just 10 pounds of future regret distributed throughout his precious machine. I cleaned up carefully, double-bagged everything, and drove the evidence to a dumpster 3 miles away. By the time I got home, Marcus was pulling into the driveway with his new belt. He walked past me without a word, heading straight for the garage to check on his car. I watched from the kitchen window as he circled it, running his hands over the paint like he was checking for scratches. He sniffed once, frowned, then shrugged, and blamed it on the neighbors. Perfect. That night, I couldn't stop smiling. Marcus noticed at breakfast the next morning. "What's got you so happy?" He squinted at me suspiciously. I stretched and took a bite of toast. Just slept well for the first time in months. His eyes dropped to my left hand. The wedding ring was sitting in my jewelry box upstairs. His jaw tightened. But before he could comment, his phone started buzzing with notifications. What the hell? He scrolled frantically through his screen. I'd posted my first update at 6 a.m. A simple status, 3 years of marriage and my husband compares me to a dead fish. Time to document the truth. Already 50 comments. His poker buddies' wives were asking questions. My college friends were offering support. His best friend's wife had texted him directly. Is this true? Take it down. His voice was low and dangerous. No. My phone rang. Mom. I let it go to voicemail while Marcus stomped around the kitchen, slamming cabinets. She called again. This time I answered. Honey, I saw your post. Are you okay? Do you need to come stay here? I'm fine, Mom. I'm handling it my way. Marcus grabbed his gym bag and stormed out. I knew he'd see the full post during his workout. I'd included the Goldfish story, word for word. Sure enough, 20 minutes later, he burst through the door, face red and sweating. Delete it. Now. No. I'll change all the passwords, lock you out of our accounts. Go ahead. He stood there breathing hard, then noticed something. Why does the garage smell weird? Probably the neighbors. I matched his earlier shrug. He stomped off to shower. His phone buzzed on the counter. Tinder notifications popping up one after another. I grabbed my phone and recorded them, then checked our shared iPad. He'd forgotten to log out of his cloud storage. His meme folder was full of screenshots rating women we knew. Our friends, co-workers, even his brother's wife, all scored on a scale of 1 to 10 with detailed notes about their bodies. When he emerged from the bathroom, I was packing a bag. Running home to Mommy, moving to the guest room, I folded my clothes calmly. He followed me upstairs and I saw him pause at our bedroom door, sniffing. Something smells off in here too. Maybe you're having a stroke. While I unpacked in the guest room, he started his damage control campaign. I could hear him on the phone, his voice carrying through the walls. She's having a breakdown. Yeah. Since the miscarriage? No. I've been nothing but supportive. She's making things up. My second post went live that evening. The poker night recording I'd made months ago when I'd first started documenting his behavior. His voice was clear. Sex with her is like fucking a corpse. His brother Jake called him immediately. I heard Marcus's side through the door. It's not what it sounds like. Jake, come on. You were there. You laughed too. But Jake had a daughter. The Goldfish demonstration hit different when you pictured someone doing that about your kid. I spent the evening going through his computer files. The performance tracking spreadsheet made me physically ill. He'd been rating our intimate moments for 2 years. Each encounter scored on multiple metrics with notes like minimal effort and no enthusiasm. The worst part, he'd included comparisons to his ex, Emma, with detailed notes about what she did better. I posted it all. Every screenshot, every degrading comment. The responses were immediate. He did the same to me. I have recordings too. Emma Chen. My phone exploded with messages. Women I'd never met sharing similar stories. His co-workers' wives reaching out. A network forming in real time. Marcus's mother called the next morning. You're overreacting and embarrassing the family. I played her the dead fish audio. Silence. Then, I didn't know he spoke about you that way. He learned it somewhere. She hung up. More discoveries. Text messages between Marcus and his friends from when I was in the hospital losing our baby. At least now you can trade up without child support. She's probably too damaged to work right anyway. Break her in like a new car. Be firm. Establish dominance early. I posted those too. Flowers arrived at my office. The card read, "You're my perfect 10. I photographed them next to his spreadsheet where he'd rated me a 4.5 with significant room for improvement. My boss pulled me aside after lunch. Marcus called. He's concerned about your mental state. I showed her the evidence. Her face went pale. Take whatever time you need. And if you need our legal department. Marcus was unraveling. He complained constantly about smells. The garage, the car, even blamed me for something in the garbage cans. He actually went outside and checked them twice. The Florida heat was doing its work. I accidentally included his side piece's number in a group text about weekend plans. Ashley responded immediately. Who is this? Marcus said he wasn't married. The screenshots she sent were damning. He'd been pursuing her for months. Calling me his roommate and claiming we were separated. His big client dinner turned into a disaster. Mr. Yamamoto's wife recognized me from the viral posts. You're the dead fish wife. I've been following your story. Good for you for speaking up. Marcus sat there watching his deal evaporate as she showed her husband the posts on her phone. Our couple's therapist reached out privately. I'd been uncomfortable with his behavior in our sessions, but I couldn't break confidentiality. He's been trying to control the narrative, insisting you were delusional. I'm glad you're documenting everything. The revelations kept coming. He'd been calling my psychiatrist, trying to get my medication increased, claiming I was having episodes. The doctor's notes showed a pattern of manipulation I hadn't even recognized. Jake reached out through Facebook. I'm sorry. I've always known how he talks about women. I should have said something. Why didn't you? He's my brother. But watching him destroy you, I can't stay quiet anymore. The smell was getting stronger. Marcus spent more time at the gym, coming home later each night. The neighbors started complaining about an awful smell from our garage. He insisted it was my fault, that I'd done something to sabotage him. Security footage from his office leaked. Ashley confronting him in the parking lot. You said you were divorced. You said she was crazy. Her tears, his cold dismissal. Someone in his office really didn't like him. At book club, his best friend's wife pulled me aside. I never liked how he talked about you, like you were property. Kevin would come home from poker night and repeat things. I told him it was disgusting, but you never said anything to me. She looked away. I didn't want to cause drama. The drama was just beginning. Marcus was trying to empty our joint accounts, but the bank flagged the unusual activity. He was telling my family I was having a psychotic break using my grief as a weapon, but I'd been documenting everything for months ever since the miscarriage when the mask really came off. My third post was a video explaining emotional abuse tactics using our relationship as a case study. Views hit 6 figures overnight. Women shared their own stories in the comments. The dead fish metaphor resonated in ways I hadn't expected. One of the poker wives reached out with a bombshell. Her husband had recorded the whole Goldfish incident. The video was worse than I remembered. Marcus actually practicing his joke beforehand, making sure he had the timing right for maximum cruelty. I watched the video 3 times before posting it. Marcus's calculated cruelty was undeniable. He'd rehearsed the goldfish grab 4 times to get the timing perfect. The footage showed him checking his reflection in the microwave, adjusting his expression for maximum impact. My hands shook as I uploaded it with a simple caption about recognizing rehearsed abuse. Within an hour, my sister called. Marcus had been texting her all morning, claiming I was spiraling into delusions. She'd almost believed him until he quoted my dead fish post word for word, details he claimed not to have seen. Her voice cracked as she apologized for initially doubting me. I pulled out the external hard drive I'd hidden months ago. Every voicemail saved, every text screenshot, every recording cataloged by date. The pattern was clear. Sweet messages in the morning, threatening ones by evening. The shift always happened when I didn't respond enthusiastically enough to his demands. Our joint bank account showed unusual activity. Marcus was attempting transfers, but the amounts triggered fraud alerts. The bank manager called to verify, and I explained the situation. She couldn't stop the transactions entirely, but promised to document everything for legal purposes. At the gym that evening, Marcus discovered his usual admirers weren't admiring anymore. The 19-year-old he'd been harassing for months had seen my posts. She approached him with her phone recording, confronting him about the inappropriate comments he'd made about her body. The gym manager intervened and Marcus left in a rage. His car detailing appointment arrived like clockwork. I watched from the window as the technician's face changed from professional smile to confusion to disgust. He spent 2 hours searching for the source of the smell, pulling apart panels, checking under seats. Marcus paced the driveway, gesturing wildly, insisting something had crawled in and died. The detailer found nothing visible but confirmed the odor was overwhelming and seemed to be coming from everywhere at once. Emma Chen's comment had opened floodgates. His college ex-girlfriend recognized his voice in the Goldfish video despite the years that had passed. She shared screenshots from a decade ago, the same rating system, the same dehumanizing comparisons, the same calculated cruelty. The pattern stretched back further than I'd imagined. Family dinner at his parents' house became a battlefield. Marcus ranted about the car, about my posts, about the conspiracy against him. His mother watched with growing alarm as he slammed his fist on the table demanding they cut me off. His father said nothing, but I caught him recording Marcus's tirade on his phone. The Miami conference loomed 3 days away. Marcus's panic was palpable. He couldn't drive clients in a car that smelled like a fish market. He called every luxury rental agency, but somehow they were all fully booked. His assistant later told me she'd warned them about his tendency to damage vehicles. Jake's wife reached out with security footage I never knew 6 months earlier. After an argument about household chores, their doorbell camera had captured Marcus keying my car in their driveway. She'd kept quiet to maintain family peace, but watching everything unfold, she couldn't stay silent anymore. The timestamp matched the mysterious scratches I'd found that Marcus insisted must have happened at the grocery store. The garage smell was becoming noticeable from the street. Marcus started sleeping at his office, claiming he needed to focus on damage control. In reality, he couldn't stand being in the house. He told everyone I'd done something to poison his environment, though he couldn't explain what or how. His desperation peaked when he showed up with a cashier's check for $50,000 and a non-disclosure agreement. He pushed the papers across the kitchen counter, demanding I sign them and delete everything. I photographed the documents and posted them with laughing emojis. The comments section exploded with people sharing their own stories of being offered money to stay quiet about abuse. The poker group officially uninvited him from their weekly game. Not because they suddenly developed consciences, but because their wives had formed their own group chat. Screenshots of Marcus's rating spreadsheet had circulated, including his detailed notes about their bodies. His social circle was collapsing from the inside. Marcus scheduled an emergency inspection at the BMW dealership. The service manager's report was damning. The smell had permeated every surface at a molecular level. Complete interior replacement would cost $45,000. Even then, they couldn't guarantee the smell would be completely gone. The fish oils had bonded with the leather and foam in ways that defied standard cleaning methods. Without his status symbol, Marcus's carefully constructed image crumbled. He took Ubers to work, claiming his car was being upgraded with custom features, but people noticed. In his image-obsessed world, not driving a luxury car was like showing up naked. His colleagues whispered, clients asked questions, and Marcus's explanations grew increasingly elaborate. The CloudSync betrayal happened during one of his brief visits home. His laptop automatically connected to our Wi-Fi and his private files uploaded to our shared storage. Among them was a spreadsheet I'd never seen, ratings for every woman in our social circle, including his friends' wives, my sister, even his dental hygienist. Each entry included physical assessments, speculation about their intimate behaviors, and comparisons to celebrities or adult film stars. My best friend Sarah proved her loyalty when her husband tried to pressure her into defending Marcus. She arrived at my door with wine and tissues, choosing our friendship over social convenience. We spent the evening going through the evidence, and she revealed things Marcus had said about me at social gatherings that made my stomach turn. The organic support group that formed from my posts grew beyond anything I'd imagined. Local women shared their own experiences with emotional abuse, creating a network of understanding and validation. We met in person for the first time at a coffee shop, and the stories they shared showed how common Marcus's behavior really was. When someone suggested I leak his intimate photos in retaliation, I refused immediately. I posted about the suggestion explaining that revenge porn wasn't justice. It was becoming the abuser. The response was overwhelmingly supportive, with many praising the decision to maintain moral high ground. The grocery store confrontation happened on a Tuesday afternoon. Marcus cornered me in the produce section, hissing accusations about poisoning his car. I responded loudly enough for other shoppers to hear, asking if he meant the dead fish he'd compared me to. Security footage later showed him fleeing as customers pulled out their phones, recognizing him from the viral posts. Women who'd seen my story began contacting Marcus's company directly. His HR department launched an investigation after multiple complaints about his behavior at professional events. Former colleagues came forward with their own experiences, and the pattern of harassment became impossible to ignore. His professional relationships dissolved one by one. Golf buddies became mysteriously busy. Lunch meetings were canceled. The country club crowd that had once admired his success now avoided him. In a world built on reputation and connections, Marcus was becoming radioactive. The Homeowners Association complaint arrived via certified mail. The smell from our garage was affecting property values, and neighbors were threatening legal action. The letter included a timeline for remediation and daily fines if the problem wasn't resolved. Marcus's response was to blame non-existent vandals, but the HOA wasn't interested in his theories. A local news blog picked up the story, dubbing it the dead fish divorce. Marcus' professional reputation took another hit as the story spread through business circles. Potential clients Googled his name and found the Goldfish video. Deals fell through. Opportunities disappeared. In a rage-fueled text message, Marcus finally admitted what I'd always suspected. He'd never loved me after I gained 10 pounds in 3 years. He called it false advertising, as if I was a product that had failed to maintain specifications. I posted the message without comment. The responses from women who'd experienced similar body shaming were heartbreaking and empowering. His mother called to apologize after seeing the compiled evidence. She admitted she'd always known Marcus was difficult, but had hoped marriage would settle him. Her voice broke as she described recognizing her own husband's behavior and her son. Generational patterns were hard to break, but she was finally seeing the damage they caused. The rental car humiliation for his Miami trip was poetic justice. When luxury vehicles were mysteriously unavailable, Marcus was stuck with a base-model Toyota. For someone who believed his car defined his worth, it was devastating. He spent the entire trip making excuses about his real car being serviced. The plastic surgery revelation came from medical records I'd kept. Marcus had insisted I get consultations for my problem areas, procedures to make me more like his ideal woman. The surgeon's notes included concerns about potential emotional abuse, documenting how Marcus had answered questions for me and dismissed my own preferences. One doctor had refused to proceed without individual counseling first. I made sure to shield our friends' children from the drama. Birthday parties and playdates were arranged at neutral locations. Marcus had never shown interest in the kids anyway. They were just props in his perfect life image. The children didn't notice his absence. His CrossFit gym became another battlefield. The dead fish story had spread through the fitness community, and his gym buddies started asking uncomfortable questions. Women at the gym formed protective groups, warning newcomers about him. His workouts became increasingly isolated affairs. When Marcus tried emotional manipulation with our wedding photos, I countered with my own memories. He'd spent our reception comparing me to his ex, rating the bridesmaids, and making crude jokes with his groomsmen. What should have been the happiest day of my life had been a preview of the degradation to come. Our cleaning lady, Maria, had been documenting Marcus's behavior for months. She showed me photos of the messes he left deliberately knowing I'd be blamed, dirty dishes hidden behind furniture, stains on carpets he'd insist I made, bathroom disasters he'd create just before guests arrived. Maria had kept quiet to keep her job, but she documented everything. Professional acquaintances began distancing themselves as the Goldfish video circulated through business networks. LinkedIn connections were quietly severed. Networking events found him standing alone at the bar. The same people who'd once laughed at his jokes now avoided eye contact. The escort service charges went back years. Credit card statements showed regular payments to consulting firms that were fronts for high-end services. The dates matched his business trips, late-night client meetings, and times when he'd been especially cruel to me. I documented everything for the divorce proceedings. With the Miami conference approaching, Marcus sent a company-wide email about personal attacks and vindictive lies. It backfired spectacularly. Employees who hadn't known about the situation looked up the story and found the evidence. His attempt at damage control only spread the story further. The parking garage security footage was the final straw for many doubters. At 3 a.m., while I was at the office collecting my belongings from his desk, cameras caught Marcus attempting to break into my car. He tried multiple keys, checked for unlocked doors, and even attempted to jimmy the window. Security had to escort him out. Financial forensics revealed the truth about our lifestyle. While I'd been paying for groceries, utilities, and household expenses, Marcus had been squirreling away his income in hidden accounts. The man who insisted on splitting restaurant bills down to the penny had been planning his exit strategy for years. I documented everything methodically for the divorce lawyer. Receipts for his $400 haircuts while I was in the hospital miscarrying. $1,000 bar tabs from nights he claimed to be working late. The paper trail of financial abuse was as clear as the emotional abuse. His Instagram follower count plummeted as women shared their own Marcus stories in his comments. Each post became a battlefield of accusations and evidence. His carefully curated image of success and sophistication was replaced with the reality of his character. The truth about his promotion finally surfaced. His father had made significant donations to ensure Marcus's career advancement. Performance reviews showed consistent complaints from female colleagues, all buried or transferred to other departments. His success was built on nepotism and enablement, not merit. The smell finally drove him from the house. He packed his belongings in garbage bags, unable to use proper luggage without it absorbing the odor. The man who'd insisted on designer everything was reduced to carrying his possessions like trash. He agreed to move out rather than continue fighting about the smell that seemed to follow him everywhere. His attempt at a counter-narrative failed immediately. Marcus posted his own version of events, claiming mental instability and vindictive lies. Within minutes, comments flooded in with screenshots, recordings, and witness accounts. The community of women I'd accidentally created fact-checked every claim in real time. When the goldfish in our tank died, I held a small funeral. I posted about it with dark humor. Marcus's only friend who understood him has passed. The comments ranged from sympathy for the fish to jokes about it escaping Marcus's influence. Even in death, the fish served as a symbol of survival. His firm strongly suggested a leave of absence after client complaints reached critical mass. The Miami conference was indefinitely postponed. Marcus's professional world built on image and connections crumbled as quickly as his personal life. Without his job title, he was just another angry man with a reputation for cruelty. The freedom party my support network threw was bittersweet. Women shared stories of leaving emotional abusers, of rebuilding their lives, of finding strength they didn't know they had. We weren't celebrating Marcus's downfall. We were celebrating our own survival and resilience. An unexpected ally emerged when Marcus's father called. He apologized for raising an entitled A's and offered to pay for my divorce lawyer. His voice was heavy with regret as he admitted to seeing his own past behavior reflected in his son. Some cycles, he said, needed to be broken with decisive action. I compiled a master document of all evidence for the legal proceedings. The wormhole comment featured prominently along with the dead fish comparison, the rating spreadsheets, and the goldfish video. The patterns were undeniable when laid out chronologically. 3 years of systematic dehumanization documented in devastating detail. The BMW sale was Marcus's final humiliation. Despite professional cleaning attempts, the smell was permanently embedded in the molecular structure of the interior. He sold it at a massive loss to a salvage yard. The car that had been his pride, his identity, His weapon of comparison was now just scrap metal with an unforgettable odor. The women who'd shared their Marcus stories began forming their own protective network. Each new revelation brought another piece of the puzzle. Former girlfriends, co-workers, even women from his college days, all describing identical patterns of dehumanization. The spreadsheet rating system appeared to be his signature move, something he'd refined over 15 years of treating women like consumer products. My post had evolved into something bigger than personal catharsis. The TikTok algorithm picked up my How to Leave a Narcissist series, and suddenly thousands of women were sharing their own dead fish moments. I became an accidental advocate, fielding messages from women trapped in similar situations. Each story reinforced the same truth. Men like Marcus rarely changed. They just found new targets. While sorting through our shared photo cloud, I discovered something that made my skin crawl. Videos of me sleeping, dozens of them, taken over months. The timestamps showed he'd been recording me without consent, sometimes for 20 minutes at a time. Some had zoom-ins on specific body parts with degrading file names. I added them to my evidence folder, another violation to document. His remaining friends attempted what they called an intervention. They gathered at his office concerned about his spiral. Marcus's response was predictable. He stormed out calling them wit, insisting they'd been brainwashed by feminist propaganda. The men who'd once laughed at his Goldfish demonstration were finally seeing the cruelty they'd enabled. Desperation drove Marcus to new lows. He threatened to release intimate photos if I didn't stop posting, not realizing I'd been recording our phone calls for months. I had him repeat the threat 3 times, ensuring the recording was crystal clear. His voice shook with rage as he described exactly what he'd share and with whom. The truth was worse than his threats. He'd already shared photos with his inner circle, treating our private moments like trading cards. 3 of his friends came forward independently, disgusted by what they'd received. They provided screenshots of Marcus's messages, complete with his crude commentary and ratings. Even his most loyal supporters were abandoning ship. Some mutual friends initially bought his narrative about my supposed breakdown. They'd seen his carefully curated social media presence and couldn't reconcile it with the evidence I was sharing. Their doubts stung, making me question whether I was doing the right thing. For a brief moment, I stood alone in my truth. Support network temporarily fractured, but isolation brought clarity. Without the constant validation from my online supporters, I discovered my own strength. The woman who'd once believed she was a 6 out of 10 was gone. In her place stood someone who understood her worth had nothing to do with Marcus's twisted rating system. I decided to continue despite the threats and doubts. My next post was simple. For every woman who's been called a dead fish, who's been rated and degraded, who's been told she's not enough, this is for you. The response was overwhelming. Thousands of women shared their stories, creating a tsunami of truth that no amount of Marcus's damage control could stop. His threat to release photos backfired spectacularly. My post about his revenge porn threats went viral beyond anything before. Women tagged lawyers, activists, and advocacy groups. Marcus's phone became unusable from the volume of messages condemning him. His carefully maintained professional image was in complete ruins. The divorce mediation arrived faster than expected. It had been 10 days since Marcus moved to his office, and the conference room smelled of failure and cheap cologne instead of rotting fish. He arrived in a rented Corolla, his BMW now a distant memory. The sight of him trying to maintain his swagger while climbing out of an economy car was almost pitiful. He launched into his prepared speech about how I'd ruined his life, destroyed his career, turned everyone against him. I listened quietly, then listed everything he'd called me over 3 years. Dead fish, warm hole, 6 out of 10, damaged goods, false advertising. The mediator's expression grew increasingly uncomfortable with each addition to the list. His mother arrived uninvited, pushing past the receptionist. But instead of defending her son, she turned to him with tears in her eyes. She spoke about failing him, about perpetuating cycles of abuse, about watching him become everything she'd hoped he wouldn't. Her presence seemed to deflate him completely. Mediation revealed Marcus's deepest insecurity. His father had compared him to cars throughout his childhood, rating his achievements like vehicle features. The cycle of objectification ran deep, but understanding its origin didn't excuse its continuation. Trauma might explain behavior, but it didn't absolve responsibility. My lawyer presented two options. Take everything I was entitled to, which would financially destroy Marcus, or accept options. Take everything I was entitled to, which would financially destroy Marcus, or accept a fair settlement and walk away clean. The choice was mine. Marcus watched nervously as I considered, probably calculating how much of his hidden assets I'd discovered. I chose dignity over vengeance. The settlement I signed took only what was fair, half of our shared assets, nothing more. No alimony, no punitive damages, no attempt to destroy him financially. My lawyer seemed surprised, but I knew revenge would only keep me tethered to his toxicity. Marcus broke down when he realized I wasn't trying to destroy him. He sobbed about destroying something good, about wanting to change, about becoming the man I deserved, but I recognized the manipulation immediately. His tears were just another performance, another attempt to control the narrative. He made one final attempt to hoover me back, promising therapy, growth, transformation. The words were right, but the delivery was wrong. Same calculated tone he'd used to rehearse the goldfish joke. I blocked him mid-sentence. My phone screen going black as his number joined the void. Even his own lawyer seemed relieved when we finished. She quietly mentioned that Marcus had been a nightmare client, demanding she destroy me while simultaneously trying to hide assets. Her subtle congratulations on my escape felt genuine. Walking out of the mediation building, I felt lighter than I had in years. The Florida sun felt different somehow, warmer and more welcoming. The fish smell was just a memory, but the strength I'd found would last forever. I stopped at a flower shop and bought myself a bouquet, not roses or apologies, but bright sunflowers that face the light. Marcus sent one last manipulation attempt through a mutual friend. I deleted it without reading, knowing nothing he could say would matter. My block list had become a shield, protecting my peace from his poison. My final post revealed something that transformed Marcus's materialism into hope for others. Throughout our marriage, he'd bought me expensive jewelry and designer items, not out of love, but as investments in his image. I donated everything to a women's shelter, turning his shallow gifts into resources for women escaping abuse. The shelter director cried when she saw the value of the donation. The new apartment smelled like fresh paint and possibilities. No fish, no BMW exhaust, no cologne masking cruelty. I hung a small painting of a goldfish on the wall, not as a reminder of trauma but of transformation. I named the painted fish Phoenix, a daily reminder that sometimes destruction leads to rebirth.